How are you, beautiful people? It is a beautiful day. It is Wednesday, and you know by now that every Wednesday on this channel we feature your Bulls hot takes and my reaction to them. So if you're new to the channel, feel free to leave any hot takes below in the comments, and I just might include them in next week's video. Also, a huge shout out and thank you to all of you guys, the viewers, for getting the channel to 12,000 subscribers. I'm always humbled by the love and support that you guys have shown since starting the channel. It really means a great deal to me, and hoping to keep the content going for you guys all off season and into this upcoming season that I know we're all looking forward to. Also, if you missed my last video that I uploaded yesterday, I did an interview with Matt Peck, the host of Locked On Bulls podcast, as we discussed the Bulls free agency, the summer league, and our expectations for this upcoming season. So feel free to check it out if you missed it. I'll leave it linked on the end screen of this video. But with that said, let's get into today's hot take, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Our first take comes to us from Baby Mackins. DeRozan will be the second leading scorer and become an all-star next season. So I agree with the first part of your take, but not the second, although I hope it ends up being true. Now, obviously, Zach Lavine is going to be the leading scorer on this Bulls team going into next season, barring any unforeseen circumstances. I do think Lavine's production and his numbers will dip slightly, which is a good thing because he actually has talent around him that can take a lot of the offensive burden off his shoulders. So you shouldn't see Zach Lavine putting up 27 points per game. Now, I think most people might be surprised by your take in the sense that the assumption is Vucevic would be the second leading scorer, given the fact that last season Vucevic averaged near 24 points per game, while DeRozan averaged 21.6 points per game. But it's also important to note that Vuce only averaged 21.5 points per game after he was traded to the Bulls, which was also be expected given that he was the Magic's main player. He was the team's primary scorer, and coming to Chicago, he then joined one of the best offensive players in the game, so he wasn't going to be averaging near 25 points per game like he did in Orlando. So as for your take, I think DeRozan and Lavine are going to be the Bulls' two primary scorers, with DeRozan the mid-range scorer that he's used to and likes playing, while Lavine will do what he does in spacing the floor, shooting from outside, but also slashing to the basket with his athleticism. And I think Vucevic, he will still get his, don't get me wrong, but he will likely be averaging in the range of, say, 18 to 20 points per game next season, while you would have DeRozan likely averaging around the same amount that he did last season, close to 22 points per game, I would say. And I think Lavine in the 25 to 26 points per game range. A slight dip in scoring, but he's still going to be the Bulls' primary scorer. Now, as for your second take, though, DeRozan becoming an all-star, I mean, I would love it, but I think DeRozan getting any more all-star selections for the remainder of his career is very unlikely. Not to say that he won't be a great player or, be right on the fringe of being selected as an all-star, but unless the Bulls dominate and start inching closer to, say, having a top 3 seed in the East heading towards the All-Star break this year, and DeRozan is really the guy that was the difference maker in getting the Bulls there, then I don't see him making an All-Star team selection. Next, we've got, fortunately I can't read that name, but the take is P. Will be an Most Improved Player nominee next season. Now, I know a lot of people have high hopes for Patrick Williams this upcoming season, which I do as well, and especially after that incredible performance that we saw last night in Summer League. Of course, I have to give the Summer League qualifier, but it's pretty clear, that this guy is the best player on the court and so dominant compared to the competition at Summer League. But playing in the regular season is going to be a different story. That being said, I do expect a big improvement from Patrick Williams going into his sophomore season, but we also have to understand that by the additions of Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams likely isn't going to be getting as many opportunities, especially from an offensive standpoint, as we may like to see. He's likely going to be focusing on defense, generally guarding the opposing team's best player, but I do think he'll be more aggressive on offense despite not really having a top scoring option for the Bulls. But most improved player, I mean, you look at past most improved players from recent years, you have Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Pascal Siakam, Victor Oladipo, and Giannis. I mean, these are guys that took massive leaps in their years that they won the Most Improved Player of the Year award. So for Patrick to even be considered as a nominee for that, which by the way, a sophomore in the league has never won that award, but Patrick Williams would need to make a considerable jump from his rookie season to his sophomore season. Next, we've got Jimmy. With some luck, the Bulls can make the finals this upcoming season. So I had actually put out a poll a few days ago asking whether or not you guys felt the Bulls are, based on their recent acquisitions, now title contenders. Now, let me just add for the record that I do not think the Bulls are title contenders, not for this upcoming season anyway. And the reason I asked this question was because I've been seeing a lot of people getting excited saying the Bulls are now championship bound, which I think for the most part people are just messing around and having fun with the fact that we now actually have a relevant team. But based on the results of the poll, I was pretty surprised to see that 38% of you felt that the Bulls are title contenders now with the changes made in free agency. And this is based on nearly 2,600 votes, so a pretty large amount of folks feel that the Bulls are title contenders. Now, I bring this up as it relates to your hot take of the Bulls making the finals this upcoming season, and you mention with a little luck, sure, with a little luck, of course that always helps. You know, you're talking about Giannis getting injured, or Embiid, or say Trae Young, or Jason Tatum, all of these guys getting injured, and the Bulls not having to go up against them. But I don't think that every team can get as lucky as the Suns did in this most recent playoff run, and the Bulls making the finals this upcoming season is not at all practical based on how their roster is currently constructed and playing in their first season together. Next, we've got Zion Ash. If the Bulls keep Coby White, he will struggle in the role coming off the bench just like last year, and he will have a hard time backing up Lonzo Ball as he feels he should be the Bulls starting point guard. So I actually 100% agree with this take. I do think Coby is going to struggle accepting his role coming off the bench. And I had mentioned this before, leading up to free agency, and it was part of my hesitation around bringing in Lonzo Ball, because by bringing in Ball, you're essentially going to slow down the development of Coby White, because Coby is clearly going to be getting less minutes than he did last season. And when you go from being a point guard off the bench, like he was in his rookie seasons, you know, to then having a starting role, to then being demoted back to the bench in favor of Satoransky, to then yet again being inserted back into the starting lineup, and now you're going to have to come off the bench yet again this upcoming season. That's going to impact him mentally and his overall confidence, and likely frustrate him to where, like we saw last season when he was coming off the bench, trying too hard and putting up bad shots. Not only that, but Lonzo is close to Coby's age, a little bit older. Lonzo is 23 and Coby is 21. So for Coby, he's looking at this as well. They now found their point guard for the future. What does that mean for my role on this team? And I hate when people say, oh, well, he can be like a Ben Gordon, a scoring spark off the bench, because I actually think he can be more than just that. If there's one thing I really appreciate about Coby White, it's his work ethic and his desire to want to get better. So I hate to say it, but I think the Bulls ultimately will be forced to trade Coby either by the trade deadline or by next offseason, because he simply just won't fit with this team. Not in the role that he is going to want to play anyway. A number 7 overall pick who can give you 15, 4, and 4, he's going to want to be a starter in this league. Whether he should be a starter in this league is a different debate, but he's not going to want to just be a reserve for the Bulls during this current era of Bulls basketball. Not only that, but I'm sure it hasn't sat well with him that literally all offseason and even towards the end of last season, the talk around Bulls basketball was, how are we going to upgrade at the point guard position? The second we landed Lonzo Ball, it's like Coby White has completely been forgotten about. And I'm sure that's going to put a chip on his shoulder. Obviously, I hope things work out with Coby coming off the bench, because I do think he is a good basketball player with strong work ethic and a solid offensive game, but I'm just not sure he's going to fit with this team long term based on the acquisitions that were made this offseason. Next up, we've got I laugh at mice. Okay, if the Bulls do not make the playoffs or pass the first round, they should fire sale. So I assume you mean by fire sale to just blow up the team and try to get value by trading away their biggest assets, which would include the guys that they just brought in. No, they should not fire sale. No, if the Bulls miss the playoffs, first of all, that would be an absolute disaster with all the moves that they have made this offseason. But if they did in fact miss the playoffs, they're not going to blow up the team. They're going to fire Billy Donovan, because look, you could question the fit of this team. You can question whether Vucevic and DeRozan are on the wrong side of 30, but this team has a lot of talent, and they should be more than capable of just simply making the playoffs, barring any injuries, of course. And if this group can't make the playoffs, I'm sorry, but that's on coaching. And rather than blowing it up and having a fire sale to just restart everything that you just put together, doesn't make sense. No, you fire the coach and you find someone who is capable of taking this talent at least to the playoffs. Now, you mentioned if the Bulls don't pass the first round, that it should still be the case that they have a fire sale. I would say no, I don't agree with that, because it's likely the Bulls may not make it past the first round. You know, we're talking about a 4 seed, possibly even a 5 or 6 seed. As a 5 or 6 seed, those are going to be pretty evenly matched series, and especially without home court advantage, it may be difficult to win the series. That being said, let's say the Bulls they finish with the 8 seed, which would be a disappointment, and then they get swept in the first round. Yeah, then same situation. I think it might be worth looking at firing Billy Donovan, but again, not a fire sale. It just doesn't make sense for the Bulls, given everything that they just recently constructed. I do think the Bulls can and will make the playoffs, and I actually think that they will win a playoff series and get to the second round with the talent that they have. But a first round playoff exit would not necessitate a fire sale. That would be premature. Let's do one more, and this one comes to us from Leighton Cohen. Sign and trade Lauri plus Troy Brown Jr. for Harrison Barnes. So I actually would really like this move for the Bulls, although I do hesitate on giving up a young talent and defensive specialist in Troy Brown Jr. But for Harrison Barnes, I mean, you look at his numbers that he put up last season in Sacramento, averaging 16.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Not only that, but shooting near 50% from the field and 40% from three. Yeah, I'll take that. And of course, you know, he's been in trade talks for a while now. Well, really everyone on the Kings has been at some point, because that organization has no idea what the hell they're doing and players get frustrated and end up wanting out. But I actually like this move because it gives the Bulls more depth on the wing, a solid scorer and a decent playmaker. He's 29, so he fits the Bulls timeline, and even for the Kings, I actually think that this trade would make sense for them by bringing in Lauri, who gives them some needed shooting and floor spacing, a younger player with upside potential in Troy Brown Jr. Harrison Barnes doesn't really fit that team's timeline anymore, with the Kings now looking to build around De'Aaron Fox. The only thing that complicates this is Harrison Barnes' contract. It's not an extreme amount, but he is making $20.2 million this upcoming season and then $18.3 million after that. And can they make the money work in a sign and trade for Lauri and Troy Brown Jr.? I guess if Lauri actually gets the money he's looking for in a deal, and who knows, it's the Kings, they may just give it to them, then yeah, I think, you know, the salaries could work in a sign and trade for Harrison Barnes. So I like this trade proposal. Obviously, would prefer to have some more depth in the front court if you're losing Lauri, and we already lost Daniel Tice and Thaddeus Young. But for Harrison Barnes, a very capable and productive player who fits the Bulls timeline, yeah, I would be all for it. I can't say that I see it happening at this point, but sure, I would take it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up for this week. Feel free to leave any hot takes that you have below for next week in the comments section, and also leave any comments or thoughts that you have on these takes that I covered in the video. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.